Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Queen & Company just released another fun sentiment stacker set. This one's called Hero. There's an information sheet, and on the back side there's a bunch of card pictures for extra inspiration. So let me just show you real quick everything that's included in the kit. There are 6 dies, so there's 3 different words, and it also has the outline. So there's Epic, Hero, and also Legend. And then there's a 2 by 3 inch stamp set, and all of these work with those word dies. So you can mix and match those to create different sentiments on your card. And then there are 2 6 by 6 paper pads included with the kit. Both of them have 24 sheets of double-sided paper. This is the pattern paper, so I'm just going to flip through these real quick. I love the colors and all of the designs in this paper collection. This is perfect for masculine cards, and it's always hard to find a good masculine paper collection. And then there's also the solids. So these are the same colors that will coordinate with that pattern paper. So they're not cardstock, they're the same weight as the pattern paper, but they're just solid colors. I love using these to matte and add little embellishments on my cards since I know they'll all match. So that's everything that's included in the Hero Sentiment Stacker set. And I do have a link provided in the description box if you want to go and check that out. So let's jump right into my first set of cards. This sketch is by MFT, it's number 488. There's a diagonal strip at the bottom of the card. And rather than try to match up that same angle with this larger piece, I'm just going to keep it as a rectangle, and then I'll just layer this lower piece with the stripes on top. So you won't be able to see that extra little bit underneath. I am going to add a couple of strips of cardstock and also a little bit of that solid paper, just to add a little separation between the 2 pattern papers. I have about 1/4 of an inch strip cut out of this green paper, and then I used one of Queen & Company's border dies for this fun little stitched border underneath that green paper. And I'll just trim off the extras, add my card front onto a card base. Whenever my background paper is mostly white, I like to add a little wider border for that background matted layer. So I'm going to move on to the sentiment. I have a stitched circle die cut. This is using one of Queen & Company's foundation die sets. I stamped part of the sentiment, and now I'm going to work on the word epic. I cut that outline die cut out 3 times, and I'm going to just glue them all on top just to add a little extra dimension. I wanted to stick with this same dark blue paper, and I don't have any foam in that color. And then using some of Queen & Company's neutral foam, this is the gray color, I cut out the word epic. And their foam is so easy to use since it's self-adhesive, you just have to pull off the backing. And I'll just layer that right on top of the outline. And then I'll glue it to my circle die cut using some liquid adhesive. And I decided I'm going to pop up this circle using some foam dimensional tape. Since it's going to be white on top of that white background paper, I want to add a little bit of separation. So I just put enough tape on there so there isn't one area that sags at all. Adhere it to my card. And then I'm going to add the rest of the sentiment. I stamped this out on the light gray matte solids. And this is, but you handle it well. So the whole sentiment is, it's not easy being epic, but you handle it well. I just cut some fishtails on both of the ends, and I'm just going to adhere that underneath the word epic. And I'm not following the sketch having it at a diagonal, I'm just going to have it straight with the rest of the sentiment. And then just to add some embellishments to the card, I cut out a couple of stars using Queen & Company's rainbow glitter foam. And just to add a little extra stability, I also cut out those same stars using some white cardstock. So I'm just going to adhere those together. And then I'll glue one of the stars next to the word epic, and the other 2 I'm going to pop up using some foam squares. And if I hadn't put that cardstock behind, they would have drooped down. I'll just adhere those on the left-hand side. I'm going to add a few little banners in the upper left-hand corner. I do want to trim those down. I think they were a little too big to start. I have a green one in the back and then a blue one in the front. I'll just overlap those slightly. And then I'll finish off the card using some Queen & Company bling. Since I already have the glitter foam, I didn't think the card needed a lot of extra embellishment. I'm using some of the Shamrock green pearls and also Queen & Company's brand new silver petite posies. And I did make 2 of the same card using this sketch. Now moving on to my next set of cards. This sketch is by OWH. It's number 49. And if you are interested in any of the sketches that I show, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post, and that link is provided in the description box below. For this card, I'm using the large polka dot paper for the background, and I'm using this tone-on-tone soft teal color in that houndstooth design for this banner. The sketch has it as a rectangle, but I thought it would be fun to add a banner. I used one of Queen & Company's foundation dies to cut that out and just trimmed off the extra. And for the strip going across the card, I'm using some of the gray paper from the solids, and then also 2 of the pattern papers. I just cut some thin strips. So I attached that green pattern first, and now I'll put a thin piece of this striped paper. And I did adhere that using some of Queen & Company's 1/8 of an inch red line tape. Now before I adhere this strip across the card, I am going to add some scrap cardstock on the left and right hand side where it goes over that banner, just to keep everything nice and level on the card. Now once I get that adhered, I noticed that I had that background cut a little too long, so I just trimmed that off real quick. I'm just going to layer this on some blue cardstock, and this is just cardstock I have in my stash. I thought that dark blue color matched really nicely, and that way I wasn't using up all of the solid paper that came in the kit. Now I'm going to add a little bit of twine to the top of the card. This is some twine I just have in my craft room. It's a blue and white. Wrapped it around the top of the card twice. And then just to adhere those ends, I'm putting some red line tape on the back side. Then I'll attach my card front onto a card base. And that upper area where I have the twine pretty close to the edge, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive just to make sure that it's not going to pull away from the card base. I've tried score tape in the past and it doesn't always hold, but I find that the art glitter glue works really nicely. So now I'm working on the sentiment. I used some white pearlescent paper for the background. I used some more of Queen & Company's foam. I have the neutral and also the rainbow glitter foam. So I have the word hero. I like how that glitter foam really makes the word pop. And I've already gone ahead and stamped out the rest of the sentiment. So this is, "You are a hero, thanks for all you do." I just layered that on the same blue cardstock. And before I adhere this sentiment box to the card, I want to make sure it's nice and level, since it's going over all of those other layers. So on some spots, I'm going to add some cardstock, and on other areas, I'll put some foam tape. I just hold it up to my card just to see how much extra dimension is needed. Now once that sentiment is in place, I can tie my bow, and I'm going to do one in the upper left-hand corner. I generally hold off tying the bow until most of the card is complete, so I know what side I want to add it. I'll just finish off the card using some Queen & Company bling. I love the assortment of bling that Queen & Company sells. Some of it is very thick, like these bullseyes, but they're so pretty and super sparkly. I think it still works for a masculine card, even with that extra sparkle. So there is my finished card, and again, I did make 2 using this sketch. Now moving on to my next set of cards. The sketch I'm using for inspiration is Mojo Monday sketch number 499. And this sketch is designed as a square card, but I am changing it up to be an A2 card instead. For the small rectangles that go behind the sentiment on the card, I use some of the solids, a lighter teal and then that darker teal. And instead of cutting a full strip for those little banners that peek out the side, I just used one of Queen & Company's foundation dies and cut it in half because just the tiny little bit peeks out of the end. I decided to layer most of the pieces on the card using some black cardstock. I think it really adds some nice contrast. I'm using the word die Hero again. I think that's my favorite in the whole set, and I can see using it quite a bit. I used Queen & Company's black glitter foam for that outline, and then the gray foam for the word Hero. And these are really easy to adhere together. Once I remove the backing, I just start on the left-hand side and work one letter at a time until I get it all in place. And if I don't get all of the letters straight, the foam does pull up for a little while after you attach them. And I've already gone ahead and stamped out the rest of the sentiment, just using some of that light gray paper. So the whole sentiment is, "You are a hero." Now, just to add a little extra interest to the card, I have that big open area below the sentiment. So I decided to cut out a few small stitch circle die cuts. I'm using the darker gray solid that's included in the paper pad. And I'm going to have both of those circles hanging off of the edge of the paper. And then I'll just trim those off using my scissors. And I did add that small scrap of cardstock for the part of the circle that's on the green paper. That way everything's nice and level and there won't be that noticeable dip on those circles. So I'll just attach my card front onto a card base. And all of my black matted layers are an additional 1/8 of an inch of the pattern paper. And I thought this card needed some stars as well. The stars just seem to work really nicely with this collection. So I cut out 2 of them. These are from Queen & Company's foundation dies. And then working on the embellishments, I'm using some black lollies, some of the black pearls, and then also those silver petite posies. These are really sparkly. And there is my finished card. And again, I did make 2 using this sketch. And I think this is my favorite card out of all of them that I made. But do let me know which card is your favorite. So moving on to the final set of cards, I used one of the dies from foundation set number 3 and lots of different pattern papers. So I have those strips all cut out. I have a piece of white cardstock and I just covered it with ATG tape. And I'm going to layer all of these pieces on that background. And I'm going to put them at a slight angle. So I'm trying to mix up the patterns, have more of the white and then a little more color for the next strip. And I did have one extra. I'll just flip over that piece, trim off all of the extra using my scissors. It's easy to follow along with that cardstock. So now there is the background of my card. And then I'm going to do a double matted layer for this card. So first I'm going to add it on some silver mirror paper. And then I'll add it on this dark blue cardstock. I thought it would be fun just to have that hint of shine with the silver mirror paper. So I'll put my card front onto a card base. Then I cut out a stitched rectangle die using this light gray paper. And I ran it through my embossing machine with a fun star embossing folder. I'll just attach this to the center of the card. I think those stars add some nice extra detail. And for this card, I'm using the word legend. So I have the outline cut out of the blue glitter foam, and then the word cut out of the white foam. So I'll just attach those together. And once I finish adhering the word, I'm going to attach them to this star and circle as the background. The star die is from Queen & Company's outline die that matches with their star-shaped shaker kit. It was the perfect size star to go on this large circle die cut. So I'm just going to pop up this circle using some foam dimensional tape. I'll adhere that to my card, and then I'll attach the word legend right in the center of the star. So I've already gone ahead and stamped out the rest of the sentiment. I'll just have this on some white cardstock, and I'll add some foam tape on the left-hand side just to keep it even with that popped up circle. So the full sentiment is the man, the myth, the legend. Isn't that a fun sentiment? And now to finish off the card, I'm going to add a few more die cuts. These are all from Queen & Company's foundation dies. They currently sell 5 different sets, and they're so fun. I love all the different shapes that are included. I'm going to pop up the stars using some thin foam squares. I'm just trying to figure out placement. I'll put one of them in the upper left-hand corner, and then the last 2 in that bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to use some of Queen & Company's epoxy dots. I have the solid or the plain color, and then also some of the stripes. I'm using some more of those green pearls, and then this time I switched to the blue petite posies. I think the color matched nicely with the glitter foam. So there is my finished card. This one was a lot of fun. Great way to use up some of those scraps of pattern paper you may have. Now here's just a quick recap of the 8 cards I made using Queen & Company's Hero Sentiment Stacker Set. This kit is so much fun. I love the pattern paper. They also sell their 6x6 paper pads individually, and I will provide a link in the description box if you are interested in any of the products that I used. It's always hard to find a good masculine paper pad, and